Well, I want to go over a little bit about something about this guy here, Putin, the guy with the straight, stoic face that, I do nothing wrong and I'm just a servant of the people. Well, this servant of the people has quite often been seen in quite a number of luxury items, such as this watch here. Which, like, in other words, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Vladimir Putin, he's just being a victim of Western propaganda," or there's people protesting against Putin in the West, and it's all paid for by the West. But a little common sense says, we have actual photos of Putin with wearing these watches that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's like, where'd they come from? Did the state all of a sudden, was the state own these watches? So basically, Putin has access to anything that he wants through the state. It's not really his. Is that the deal? In either case, it's the same thing as actually owning the item, right? But considering, like, a common person, I could say you could just buy a Seiko or a Loris even for way under $100, and you have just as good as any watch out there versus something that's $100,000 or more. And he's been photographed with various watches totaling probably well over $1 million. So is that a person that actually is watching out for the corruption in the state and in the government and in the private industry? No, you can quite see what the deal is with him. Now, I got to say this. The average Russian can't do a damn thing about it. They're almost like this little guy here on his little bicycle with the training wheels going up against the forces of the whole state, which is controlled by Putin. Basically, you're just like this little guy going up against the biggest power there is, and you're just gonna get squashed like a bug. Basically, this guy here is a good representation on this bike as to what the average Russian is against when they try to investigate anything that goes on with Putin. But I'll give you some stories from other things that have went on in the past, and you could say they're just BS or what, but there's so much on this guy, I don't have an hour to dedicate to it. It's like ridiculous, and the people in the West that are being fooled by him and his propaganda outlet called Russia Today, it's really sad that they think they're going to a person that actually cares about things and is fighting the New World Order and fighting the oligarchs in the West. This guy is bigger than the oligarchs in the West. This is one of his houses. This is a $1 billion villa on a lake in Russia that was built by several of Putin's companies. Of course, he can't really prove that he owns it, but he flies there and uses it all the time. Now, I want to give you another story out there. Here's another game he plays too. The religion establishment. Much, much, much shrewder game to play than a staunch communist. Now, I know he must have been a staunch communist at one point in time, because he would have never risen to his ranks in the KGB if he wasn't a staunch communist. So, this game of, kissing the Bible and playing up with the religious leaders, who are probably just as corrupt as any communist going, because they certainly don't seem very poor to me, living the humble life of Christ, that's for sure. But, looking at Putin in this picture, it's a game he plays for the masses. And it's amazing the masses get fooled by that, and I pointed this out before. Religion is a great way to control the masses, and that's about what it's about. But getting on with some of the stories on here about Putin, his other things with cars and different things like that he owns, and his pompous attitude and ceremonies that just go with everything he goes along with him anywhere he goes. He's always leading the ultimate lap of luxury, or putting on a big charade how he's the biggest macho leader in the entire world. But there's incidents. I'm going to relay some of these incidents while you look at this picture of him walking in with his the humble leader walks into his inauguration, which he's now in power for over 12 years. So just figure that out. But I'm going to put this to you. This is actually coming from the New York Post. It was about Kraft, who was the owner of the New England Patriots. His name was Robert Kraft. He took out Robert Kraft. This was back from an article in the New York Post back in 2005. Robert Kraft took out a ring, showed it to Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin put it on and says, "I could kill somebody with this ring." And then basically he kept it. He kept it. And, at first it kind of cut the story that he basically just stole the damn ring. But then to kind of diffuse the story, they changed it to, oh, it was a matter of we just gave him the ring. It was a gift. But considering how it was done, I could kill somebody with this ring. That kind of tells you a little bit about his thuggish KGB demeanor and actual inner self. Because this guy has not come up through the ranks as some benign politician that's basically trying to smooth things out and get the economy going. He's a thug. I'm going to put it to you that way simply. There's another incident out there in September 2005 when Putin was a guest at New York Guggenheim Museum. One at point, the host brought out a conversation piece that another Russian guest must have given to the museum. It was a glass replica of a Kalashnikov automatic weapon filled with vodka. So it was like a few $100 or so. But then Putin nodded to one of his bodyguards. He took the glass Kalashnikov and carried it out of the room. And it was like, hey, I like that. It's mine. And basically, this is the deal with this guy. When he came to power, and people are very stupid, but they got to look back a little bit more at history. Oh, by the way, this is his little yacht that he has. Of course, he doesn't own it. The state owns it. He just uses it. But you got to remember, a leader fighting corruption has to be surrounded by this much luxury owned by the state, unquote, unquote, right? So something is wrong with the whole picture. But it gets me. I could see where the Russians can't do much about it. But I just can't see how the Westerners just, kiss this guy's butt like he's the greatest leader in the world fighting the New World Order. This guy is out for number one all the way. He's a KGB thug. He's worse than any elite, even on the Western side. Worst. And it's like you got a bunch of freaking lemmings in the West following him like he's a good, better alternative. He's a worst alternative. That's what it comes down to. Now, basically, back in the 1990s, one of the things that actually got him into power was there was a problem with bombing by rebels that he basically put down, and there was this big emergency, and that helped him go into power. Then later on, he was accused of actually causing these bombings of these apartment buildings by these Chechen Muslim rebels and all this type of stuff like that. Basically like a Reichstag type fire thing that the Nazis did. And, he goes on to say that my FSB is not even capable of such bombings. The FSB is not capable of such bombings. I don't think that's a very good, reason or excuse for anything, to tell you the truth. I mean, you can't think, somebody to come back and say, oh, the FSB is incapable of bombings. Get the hell out of here. They're capable of any damn thing. It's just like if he's flat out denied it, it'd be a little more believable. But no, he says the FSB is incapable of such bombings. But basically, that was his Reichstag type fire that brought him to power. This guy is basically like another Adolf Hitler. And if you notice, his levels of luxury that he lives in is like far beyond anything that even it's in the West practically. There's a few out there in the West that probably rival him, but then again, they don't really hold political power, and they don't hold life and death power over the masses. If you wanted somebody eliminated, Putin could do it at any time. Basically, the guys that are in the West that actually have a lot of money, they're just interested in living the luxury and money and good life that their money has provided them with. They're not actually like thugs, like Putin actually came from the KGB. Now, the point is I'm making on this is that, in the case of him, with his luxury and his luxury poopers out here, this is a Putin pooper, and he's got two of them because he probably eats, I don't know what the deal is with him anyway, but he's got his luxury poopers. That's pretty cute. But this guy basically puts on a great act. It's a stoic face. It's like he acts a little Christian, he acts conservative, he acts like he cares. It's a game. It's a game. This guy's an egomaniac. And, if you look back even at some of the things like, one thing I can actually say in his favor is that he's not owned by his wife like some people in the West, some of the politicians and things like that. He actually got the upper hand on that deal for sure. But the point is, with him, it's like it's quite obvious that he's been basically divorced for many, many, many years. He's had a baby with another mistress. He's had various girlfriends. He's probably got half the best-looking Russian army at his disposal, and I don't really fault him for any of that type of stuff. But it's like, why are you playing the Christian card? Why are you playing the holy card? Why are you playing like you're some guy that's gives a shit about the masses? You don't. You just care about yourself. You're Putin. And he actually reminds me of some other people I've run into and worked for. Because I can tell you one thing. I worked for a Russian colonel, actual genuine Russian colonel, in the military. He used to run a bomb factory, some kind of munitions factory, and keep the production up for blowing up stuff in the West, basically. And he came over here and he made a lot of money. And actually, he made a lot of money due to me, I think, too. But, I used to come up with the ideas and shit and keep us systems running. And, it was almost like he'd get pissed off at me because I give him a lot of shit a lot of times, especially when I used to ride into work and I used to pass him on his Range Rover on my Harley and I hit the freaking throttle with the side pipes and rattle his freaking cage, you know what I mean? But, true story, no bullshit. But this guy supposedly made $100 million. But I could tell you one thing. From my impression of Russian officers, they got the biggest, fattest heads in a million years. You will not see that in the Marine Corps in a million years. And I suspect, it's almost like this is why I think I could read Putin. I suspect he is one son of a bitch on the outside, and you read the outside of him. On the inside, he's one son of a bitch. On the outside of him, he might look like a really calm dude, but he is not. This guy is vicious and cold as a son of a bitch. Because the colonel isn't the only one I know. And I'll tell you the truth, man. These guys that have been in the KGB, they are not cool. And a lot of them, too, will walk around with initials after their name. PhD, Dr. So-and-so, PhD in this. And they could talk smooth, but damn, I'll tell you one thing. They're cold. And it's amazing that most of the West still buys into that this guy is some kind of reformer and he's against the New World Order. Holy shit. That's amazing. I can't believe that even Russia Today, which is his freaking outlet, that's his outlet. That's not Russia's outlet. That's not some team of independent reporters coming from Russia. That's Putin's news outlet. It's amazing that they even have any listeners here in the West. They got other freaking alternative sources out there, and I'll recommend one that's outside the David Icke and Alex Jones whack job channels, and that is Accuracy in the Media, run by Reed Irvine. It's been around for decades, and you actually will get a lot of alternative true stories directly from that guy versus getting it from Russia Today. So basically, I just want to point out that this guy owns Russia. There's nothing you can do about it. This is like the Russian peasant going against Putin. It's like you don't have a prayer's chance in hell. And considering the type of luxury and crap that this guy has, it's amazing that the average person in the West cannot figure out that old boy is out for number one all the way. And that's just the way it is. He is out for number one. So, given that he's had 12 years in office right now, this guy, you know what the deal is? He does not want to give up any of his luxuries now. He doesn't. And you know what? You know what he's worried about? The next guy that comes in power is going to keep the heat off of that guy that comes into power, is going to keep the heat off of that guy by slamming it to Putin. And is going to grab all he can get. Same way Putin did to the oligarchs. Got it? So that's the deal. There's no fair play going on. It's a freaking oligarchy in Russia, man. It's pretty much screwed up, but that's the way it is. That's what Putin's hanging on to power for, because the next guy that comes into power after him is going to hang this guy by the balls. Putin. He's going to get hung by the balls by the next guy, and he damn well knows it. There's like a ton of dirt on this guy, but nobody can get to it because nobody's got the power to do it yet. But it's going to come about sooner or later.